Hello and welcome to DFS Talk. It is Saturday, September 25th, 2021. I'm Andrew Hanson alongside Crash Davis. And this is week 3, the main slate. You blink, Josh, and the first 2 weeks have already gone by, but we got off to a good start week 3 on the Thursday night game. So are you ready to carry the momentum here into the main slate?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, it's gone by really fast. These first 2 weeks are just flown by, and I'm sure week 3 is going to fly by, right by too. So looking forward to another big production in week 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I like here is that we have these 2 games of data in terms of stats and the eye test, getting to watch a bunch of these games and get a feel for some of the new coordinators and the new offenses. So let's see if we can put it together here, go position by position, and help everybody build some winning lineups. So let's start with quarterbacks. Who are you looking at first?
Yeah, first I'm looking at Kyler Murray. He's the leading scorer in fantasy right now through 2 weeks, and he's facing a Jacksonville team that has allowed 423 yards per game in their first 2 games, which is 4th worst in the NFL. And they're 27th against the pass, 25th against the run. So, Murray should be set for another big game. And his price tag is high. He's the highest priced quarterback on the slate, but it's justified for the matchup and how he's performed in the first 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, I love that call. And this is one of the teams that I've really benefited from watching. I watched that first game against Tennessee. And here's the thing that I noticed. To me, it feels like the offense runs through Kyler Murray. They have a lot of 5 wide sets. It's not one of these run-heavy offenses where you really have to worry about guys just punching it in and your quarterback doesn't get to throw it in, because he can run it in as well as anybody. He's already scored twice on the ground himself, thrown for almost 700 yards, thrown for 7 scores. And so with that dynamic, the thing I wanted to add to your Murray call is that you can go naked with Kyler Murray here. You don't need to use one of his wide receivers or tight ends like you do with most other starting quarterbacks in DFS. You can, but it's harder to do, especially if DeAndre Hopkins plays.
Right.
We're recording this on Saturday afternoon. He's questionable. So if he plays, I like the idea of going with Murray naked. If Hopkins sits, then we'll talk about that once we get to wide receivers. But love Murray, and unfortunately, he is the most expensive on DraftKings, but I do think he's worth the investment.
Yeah.
If you want to pivot off of him and go with one of the other top-tier quarterbacks, I'm looking at Russell Wilson, who's got Minnesota. Over-under here is 55 on BetUS. There's a couple really high totals this week. That's one of them. There's 4 games over 50 out of the 13. So we do want to get as much exposure to these games as possible. And that's one of them. Seattle's only favored by 2. So it could be one of the high-scoring, close games that we want. Minnesota struggled against the pass so far. They're number 26. And Wilson, it doesn't have quite the gaudy numbers of Kyler Murray so far, but he's thrown for almost 600 yards, 6 scores, no picks. He runs it a bit, and he's cheaper than Murray. So he's another guy you can look at.
Yeah, I definitely think Wilson's in a great matchup going against the Vikings. I mean, they've really been exploited last week. Kyler Murray had like 400 yards passing against them. So I think it's a really good matchup for Russell Wilson and his receivers too. So.
All right, if we go a little bit cheaper here, do you have a suggestion?
Yeah, if we want to pay down, we can look at Daniel Jones, the New York Giants. He's facing against Atlanta Falcons. Allowed the most fantasy points to quarterbacks this season, 29.05 fantasy points allowed. And he's projected to score the 7th most by Pro Football Focus, the 7th most fantasy points this week, and he's priced lower than 12 other quarterbacks on DraftKings. So you're getting a really good value there for the price.
Yeah, I like that. Atlanta off to a rough start, and Daniel Jones, he'll run it himself. We saw that against Washington.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot. All right, Matthew Stafford here is my value pick at quarterback. Not ultra cheap, but only 6,400 on DraftKings. So you save almost 2,000 off of Murray. And quick history lesson here. Last year, the Rams in Tampa matched up 27-24. And McVay and company said to Goff, we're going to put the ball in your hands. We're not going to run against this stout front of Tampa. What we're going to do is we're going to kill them with the short passes. And so that's what they did. Goff threw it 51 times, put up 376 yards passing, 3 scores, and they win with that formula. And I don't see any reason for that to change. I think they go right back to it. I mean, Stafford is a step up from Goff anyway. And you just don't want to run against this front. So I think they're going to go to the air often. And this is the other high total here, 55.5. Also 1 point spread. So perfect game scenario. And I'll get Stafford out there. We saw what Dak did back in week 1, throwing for over 400 against Tampa. And they've got some injuries in the secondary.
Yeah.
So Stafford is a key play for me here this week.
Yeah. I like Matthew Stafford. He's had a really good first 2 games, and I expect it to continue. Like you said, Tampa's really banged up in their secondary right now, so should be able to have another big game.
Excellent. We'll add a value play or two for our members when we give out the coach's clipboard on DraftKings. We give options, different combinations to put together for a stack, team stack or a game stack. So we'll leave it there for the show here. And let's transition to running backs. Josh, are you looking to pay up this week?
Yeah, a little bit. Obviously, he's questionable, so we got to keep an eye on this. But I'm looking at Dalvin Cook. He's 8,400 on DraftKings, going up against Seattle, who's allowed the most fantasy points to halfbacks this season. Obviously, with what Derrick Henry did last week, a lot of people are going to be looking at that. So I think that he's going to be, if he does play, I think he's going to be one of the highest scoring halfbacks on the slate. And with his questionable tag, we could get a little bit lower ownership than normally would. So I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook for my first halfback.
Excellent. I'm chuckling here with your use of the word halfback. I like it. My mom was actually talking to me about football today and asking if people still use the word halfback. And I thought of you. We also call it the running back, the tailback, but I like the old school halfback call. And Cook is like an old school, bell cow. Feed it to that guy all day long. And here's the thing. That's an injury news I'm going to be looking at very closely. If he's out, I'm all over Alexander Mattison at 6,000.
Yeah.
I know he disappointed a little bit last year when he got the starting nod, but I love his talent. And you got the same matchup, the same role, not as talented, but he's got what it takes, I think. So I'll have him plugged in if Cook is out. I'm looking a little cheaper here if Cook plays. Looking at Eckler as a possible upper tier play here. Chargers in that the other really high total game against Kansas City, and the way to beat Kansas City is on the ground. We saw Baltimore do that largely with Lamar Jackson, and Eckler is not the bell cow halfback like Cook, who's going to get 25 carries, but he did get 18 touches last week, 9 carries, 9 receptions, and I think that's this is a perfect week for him. Speaking of which, Omaha Joe Stanton's going to be at this game.
Yeah.
So he's going to be our good luck charm. I know he's going to be rooting on Eckler. He likes that play. So he'll probably be in a fair amount of my lineups.
Yeah, I definitely like Eckler. He was my second pick for halfback, for running back, halfback, whatever you want to call it.
All right.
So, yeah.
Who's next?
So next for me is going to be Tyson Williams from the Baltimore Ravens. He's 5,800 on DraftKings. Detroit's allowed the second most fantasy points to halfbacks this season. And I think after seeing what Aaron Jones did on Monday night, they're going to have an idea that they can probably duplicate some of that success against the Lions, who really are pretty banged up, and they're going to struggle against the run all year. I think they did in week 1 against San Francisco too. So I'm going to go with Tyson Williams for my value running back.
Excellent matchup there. Next guy I want to mention is Saquon Barkley, 6,500. He's got Atlanta. So, this is one of those issues we run into in DFS where you like the matchup. And so you mentioned Daniel Jones. So we have some interest in the passing game. I'm mentioning Barkley. We'll see how it plays out. But Atlanta has struggled against the run so far. And the big thing with Barkley is I've been waiting for him. And now it's 3rd week in, and he's got 10 days of rest. And this is something I follow throughout the season. They had the Thursday game. He got more touches and more snaps than I thought he would. He didn't have as many touches as you want from Saquon Barkley. But I think the trend continues. I think he gets a bunch more touches after the 10 days of rest. Great matchup. And if people shy away from him a little bit because he hasn't had the smash game yet, then we get a little bit of an edge there. So what do you think there about Barkley? Are you willing to fire him up here in week 3?
Yeah, I do like Saquon Barkley. He's got a good matchup against Atlanta, and he's just due. I mean, everybody's kind of been waiting for that breakout game to happen, and I think it's a very good chance it happens this week at home. So
okay. Well, I want to ask you before we go to the pass catchers here. I want to ask you about one more running back situation. One of the potential value plays is Nahim Hines, and I think I might need you to talk me off the ledge here because just one of these history lessons. You go back and just can't forget when Indianapolis played Tennessee last year.
Yeah,
Hines had that huge game. He had 12 carries for 70 yards and a score, caught 5 more for 45 and a score. And it was a big surprise because Jonathan Taylor was active that week. And it was clear right from the beginning that the game plan was for Hines.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, I'm tempted to go back there. Hines had a strong week 1, but he didn't get many touches last week, and Marlon Mack was back in the picture. So now we have all 3 running backs out there. So I want to get your thoughts on that. And the thing about the Indy offense, another thing that picked up from watching them play Seattle was this is a team that I do think really funnels through the running backs.
Yeah.
Wentz is not a downfield threat. They give these guys a lot of carries, a lot of dump offs. And so you don't really want to invest in backfields with 3 guys who are legit to get a bunch of touches.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I'm sort of waffling on it. But what are your thoughts about investing in anyone in this backfield? Do you think it's a possibility or is it too crowded?
No, I think you bring up a good point about what they did with Nahim Hines last year in the playoffs. He was really featured. And I think when you have your backup quarterback in there, it's kind of a situation where you've got to rely on a short passing game, and that would definitely favor Nahim Hines. So I think that's a good option and very, very low owned, I think, this week. So
yeah, GPP only for sure if you go that route, and really a DraftKings special with the PPR format. All right, Josh, let's go to some of these pass catchers and see if we can connect with some of our quarterbacks. Who do you want to start here with on the high end?
So for the high end, I'm going to look at Tyler Lockett, 7,400 on DraftKings. He's been Wilson's favorite target with 16 targets the first 2 weeks. He scored 29 and 34.8 fantasy points. And now he gets to face the Vikings defense that's allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. So I think that Tyler Lockett will continue to be featured by Wilson pretty much all year. So definitely do think that Metcalf is going to have that breakout game soon. But maybe one more week they feature Lockett a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, this is a tough one. We hit it last year with Lockett in his huge game against Arizona. And I'll admit I was surprised that he's gone back to back with big weeks. I thought Metcalf would get in the end zone more, especially in week 2. He did get 11 targets, but 6 catches, no touchdowns. So I'm leaning a little bit more towards Metcalf. I just don't see it going 3 weeks in a row where Lockett gets, way more fantasy production. Sometimes it's just the way that the ball bounces.
Yeah.
One of those long passes to Lockett, the defense just, fell away, 2 guys, and nobody touched him, and he scampered in. So, those things happen. Metcalf, he's getting the targets. He's getting some deep targets. But, the one thing I do like about investing in these wide receivers is that there's really only 2.
Right.
Not like this Arizona group of 4 or more. And if you play 2 or 3 lineups, you can always play one with Lockett, one with Metcalf. But those 2 guys are going to be very important this week on this slate. I'm going to mention a cheaper guy to go with your Daniel Jones call. Sterling Shepard is only 5,900 on DraftKings. Love his usage. 9 and 10 targets so far, 7 and 9 receptions. PFF really likes the matchup against Isaiah Oliver in the slot. 47.5 is a decent total, and Shepard's really thriving in the slot so far this year. 73% of his snaps there. So Shepard is a way to on DraftKings save a little bit of money and hopefully get another one of those 7-8 catch games.
Yeah, I definitely like that play. Sterling Shepard. Yep.
All right, give me somebody else to fill out this roster.
Yeah, so I've got Marquis Brown. He's 5,600 on DraftKings. He's been Lamar Jackson's favorite target this year, going up against the Lions secondary that's just riddled with injuries. They lost Jeff Okudah for the year, and Pro Football Focus has ranked this as the second best matchup for the main slate on Sunday that he has. So a lot of question marks with the Detroit secondary, and I think that he could definitely find one or two deep balls for sure on Sunday, as long as he does play. He is questionable, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But he was questionable last week, and he ended up having a big game with 6 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown on 10 targets. So definitely gonna, if he does play, gonna play Marquis Brown.
Very explosive player and a great matchup, like you said. Yeah. Quick side note, thank you to our new partners at Pro Football Focus. We're really loving that.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of all the data and tools that they have to offer, and trying to help our members put winning lineups together with that. We also have our analytics master, John Wiehausen, on our team, helping provide information to the members. And he's going to jump in a meeting with me tomorrow morning that we'll have for any of our members who want to join a couple hours before kickoff, 11 a.m. to talk strategy, talk lineup builds. So we invite all of you who are listening to jump in with us. If you haven't joined yet our Discord, you can join as a member at dfscoachtalk.com and sign up for whichever length of membership you'd like. And then we'll get you into our Discord here before the main slate. So you get all of our lineups. We give full lineups on FanDuel and Yahoo, cash lineups, GPP lineups. We've got the coach's clipboard on DraftKings. So we'd love to have you. We're ready to smash here in week 3. dfscoachtalk.com to sign up there. All right, another wide receiver option here for me, Josh, is Robert Woods. And I talked about that matchup against Tampa with Stafford. And last year, Woods went for 12 and 130 in this matchup. Tampa's secondary a little bit banged up, like we talked about.
Yeah.
44% of Woods' routes in the slots. So we should see some Ross Cockrell. 5,700. Another, nice price range on DraftKings for a guy that can get 10 catches or more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely like Robert Woods, especially after what happened last week with Cooper Kupp. A lot of people are going to be taking their attention and putting it over towards him. So Woods could go a lot lower owned than he probably should for the matchup this week. So
okay. One more I want to run by you is the Arizona group. So let's say Hopkins is out. Then I'm much more interested in one of these pass catchers, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore, AJ Green. But really a different skill set from these guys. Kirk is a little bit touchdown dependent. He did get 2 in the first week. AJ Green trying to have one more go at it here.
Yeah.
He got in the end zone last week. And then Rondale Moore, speedster, rookie, caught 7 balls last week. And they're all within $1,000 of each other on DraftKings. Willing to go with any of those guys?
Yeah, it would probably be Rondale Moore for me. He's been very explosive, and I think he has the biggest upside of any of those options. So that would be my choice.
Okay, excellent. All right, let's go to tight end. Let's see who we can pair up here. Again, you don't have to pair up your tight end with your quarterback. Sometimes I'll go with 2 different tight ends. I don't think I will probably go that route this week. I don't like quite as many of these matchups, but and then some of the key guys are ultra expensive.
Right.
But so let's assume that we're trying to save a little bit of money here this week. Who are you targeting at the tight end position?
I've actually got 2 options that are pretty decent priced. The first option would be TJ Hawkinson. He's been obviously the Lions' primary passing option first 2 weeks. He's seen 11 and 9 targets with 8 receptions and a touchdown in both games. And this week he gets to face a Ravens defense that's allowed the most fantasy points to tight ends this year. So TJ Hawkinson should be pretty much every week a guy that you can count on for getting at least, a couple, 3 or 4 red zone targets. So good option for a touchdown every week.
Yeah, I love that play. I mean, Baltimore has been crushed by the tight end, and it has been Waller and Kelsey, two of the best in the NFL. But Hawkinson is not far behind them, and he's Goff's favorite target. I mean, with all the injuries to the wideouts, it's Hawkinson time all season. So you get him at a much cheaper price than those other top tight ends in a good matchup. I say go for it as well. He's my favorite play, along with you. Let's explore a couple other options though, if we want to save some money, or maybe put two tight ends out there.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Cook is an option for me. I like how he's dominated targets so far. And in a game, again, with a total of 54.5, with the Chargers being the underdogs here, you figure they're going to have to throw some. I mean, I talked about Eckler and how much I think he'll get involved.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously they're going to throw it a bunch as well. And Cook off to a pretty good start. He's only 3,900 on DraftKings, 13 targets in the first 2 weeks. So I like the spot that he's in.
Yeah. I like the spot that Higbee's in as well. So
yeah, Cook and Higbee. I like them both.
Yeah. Yep, Cook and Higbee. And then for my second pick, I'm looking at for tight end, I'm looking at Kyle Pitts. He's seen 14 targets in his first 2 games this year. He's averaging right around 10 fantasy points a game, and that's without finding the end zone. So I think that's going to happen this week against a Giants defense that's allowed the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends this year. So I think he's going to have a good option to get in the end zone this week. So that would be
a popular play. A lot of people looking for that first touchdown. One more cheap option here, Max Williams on DraftKings, 3,200. Didn't do much in the first week, but 7 targets last week against Minnesota. Caught all 7 for 94.
Yeah.
Jacksonville last week gave up 8 catches to the Denver tight ends, including a touchdown. Again, another high-scoring game. And here's one of those lower-owned combos. If you go with Kyler Murray to get Max Williams out there instead of one of those wide receivers, I think that'll be a much lower-owned stack. And just not a tight end that's very popular with the options we've talked about, and then all the more expensive players as well.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really good value play there. So I watched that game myself too, and he was definitely making some plays for Murray. So I think he could have a good game for 3,500 you said? 3,200?
Yeah, 32.
Yeah, dirt cheap.
Love it. All right, before we hit our team defenses, just want to invite folks to say hello on Twitter at DFS Coach Talk. Follow us there, and you'll see some giveaways occasionally and some fun tweets from the crew. And on YouTube, if you don't mind, do hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you know when these podcasts post. We'll have a primetime show coming out later tonight as well to get you ready for those showdown slates Sunday night and Monday night. But let's finish strong here with some defense. How are we going to stop people, Josh?
So for me, I'm going to be looking, first of all, I'm going to be looking at New England's defense. They've allowed the 3rd fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks this season, and they're currently tied for the 2nd best scoring defense in the league. They're going to go against Jameis Winston, who's thrown for less than 130 yards passing per game this season. And, he had a really rough game last week at Carolina with a passer rating of 26.9. And you know how Belichick always does it. He'll come out and try and take away the team's best weapon. So he's going to come out and try and take out Alvin Kamara and then force Winston to beat him, which is not going to end well, I don't think, for Jameis. So should end up in a lot of turnovers is the way I'm seeing it. So
unfortunately, Winston is a little fond of the turnover, and so is Bill Belichick. So that's a good matchup.
Yeah,
good combo. Without Joe here on the show, I got to stand up for his Broncos. I know he'd be hyping them up. Undefeated, 2-0, getting the Jets 10.5 point favorites with a total of only 41.5. So a very low implied total for the Jets. They are the most expensive, so it's a bit chalky. But I'm willing to pay 4,300 for them. Look at the skill position players that the Jets are going to roll out there with Tevin Coleman out. You're looking at Ty Johnson and Michael Carter running the ball. The wide receiver group looks to be Keelan Cole, Braxton Berrios, and Jeff Smith.
Yikes.
With a rookie quarterback, it's just not really an ideal formula for moving the ball and punching it in. So I like the Broncos here.
Yeah, sounds like Joe should be in for another big win. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yes, it does.
So,
all right, you got one more for us?
Yeah, I like Arizona. 3,000 on DraftKings going up against Jacksonville. They're 29th in scoring this year with 17 points a game. Pro Football Focus has Arizona projected as the 5th highest scoring defense this week, which is $1,100 less than New England, my other top play. So if you're looking for some value, that would definitely be an option. And Trevor Lawrence has thrown 5 interceptions already this year, and he's going to now be facing the league's best pass rusher in Chandler Jones. So I'm sure they're going to be getting after him early and often, and it's probably going to lead to another 2 or 3 interception day by Lawrence. So.
Yeah, great call there. Arizona with Jones there, that got 7 sacks already. Great start. Tough to argue with that pick. So I'm going to leave it there with that nice value pick at 3,000. So that wraps up the position tour here down the roster, and we hope that helped everybody get ready on DraftKings. Josh, any final thoughts here on the Week 3 main slate?
I think it's going to be another, like I said earlier, another big fantasy producing day. I hope that Dalvin Cook does play, and I think that we've got some good value if he doesn't play to kind of build our lineup around, and we have some good value plays for our members that we'll, hang on to on Sunday. So,
yeah, absolutely. And again, jump in with us if you want to take advantage of those value plays and full lineups. dfscoachtalk.com. We'd love to have you. And if you join, you're going to get access to all of our sports for however long you're with us. So you get our full baseball lineups every day, golf lineups, basketball when that starts, NBA preseason right around the corner. So jump in with us, join the family. We'd love to have you. And good luck to you on Week 3. So that will do it for this show. On behalf of Crash Davis and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hanson. Thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.